Virginia's closely watched gubernatorial election just 1 week away. President Biden is throwing his support behind Democratic nominee Terry McAuliffe. The president expected to host a campaign event alongside McAuliffe later today in Arlington. Now, McAuliffe and his Republican opponent, Glenn Youngkin, neck and neck, as they have been for weeks now, tied in the latest polls as the race comes down to the wire. Joining us right now is Niall Stanage, a White House columnist at The Hill and someone with a good sense of humor. Niall, good morning. Okay, here's the thing. McAuliffe has already critiqued President Biden as not being popular. I have to bring that back up because now Biden is stumping for him, even though he's not popular in parts of Virginia, according to this man he's supporting. Can you break that down?
Well, I can. I mean, part of it is that President Biden is looking into potentially the first major electoral loss of his presidency. It would be a real body blow if Democrats lost this race. But the other part, and I think this gets to your question, Adrian, is that to some extent this race is an unpopularity contest. McAuliffe has tried to make it all about former President Trump, tried to use that to motivate Democratic voters. Obviously, the problem is that President Biden himself is not particularly popular there.
And he is only one of a long list of Democrats who've come to the aid of McAuliffe. I mean, he's brought out some major names, including Stacey Abrams. I want to say President Obama actually stumping for him. But never has there hasn't been any movement to create a wide divide between himself and Youngkin. What can the Democrats do now?
Not a whole lot, except hope that turnout works for them. I think that's a lot of what those appearances that you just mentioned are about. President Obama and Stacey Abrams in particular appealing to black voters in Virginia who are a vital part of the Democratic coalition. But the danger is that with Democrats holding the White House, with their agenda being rather slow to pass in the building behind me, that there just won't be that enthusiasm that McAuliffe, and by extension Biden, need in this race.
What about, what are we hearing from the Youngkin campaign? What are they thinking strategy-wise? They've really focused more on policy.
They have. They've tried to make a particularly big deal out of education policy or education administration in Virginia. And I think that's part of a broader picture, Adrian, where schools and school boards have become a more vital political issue. The other point is that the Youngkin campaign has kind of tried to sit on the fence as far as former President Trump is concerned, accepting his endorsement but not wanting him to campaign with the candidate. That is going to be interesting to see how that pans out.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see on what emotions Virginians are led by. Will they be emotionally compelled based on the superstar campaigning of the Democratic Party, or will they be emotionally drawn to the conversation around education? We will see. Niall Stanage, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Adrian.